All righty, we are going to start. Oh, I guess I got to get my grammar book. Hold on just a second. The morning snuck up on me too this morning. 163 is where we're at. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm still getting over this cold, so I hope I'm not being too gross. I'm trying not to be gross, but you know how it is. Everybody gets it. Okay, 163. And did you know that there are 30 weeks in our grammar book? And we are on week 28. Why is it pink? That's weird. Why is it pink? All right, we have rose-colored glasses today. Maybe this is good. Maybe we need to go with the pink here. And that helps a little bit. Okay, anyway. We are reviewing quotations. William, if you're there, whenever you get a chance, you can turn on your camera so I know that you're there. Quotation marks indicate words that are spoken. The quote is the sentence in quotation marks. The attribution is the person speaking and the speaking verb. So those are the two parts to the sentence. When you have characters talking, it says, read the story below, place quotation marks around the words that are spoken, insert attributions, use ideas listed in the margin or words of your choice. So you've got on the side here, Mama answered, the little bird cried, the mama bird told her baby, Mama wisely concluded, and the baby bird asked. So I'm going to just read it real quick without all the attributions so you get an idea of where this story is going, and then you guys can take turns helping me decide which attribution fits best. So watch those two silly men. They are fighting over who crosses first. Will the tall man win? He looks stronger, but the other is quick on his feet. Oh, the smaller one has fallen in. Well, pride goes before a fall. So that's the dialogue. That's what they're saying. Now we get to decide how they're saying it and who's saying it here. So I'll start with you, JC, on this one. Watch those two silly men, and that is the quote. So we'll start with putting quotation marks around that. And then what do you think the attribution is for that one? One of these on the side.
Is it the mama bird told her baby?
Yes, Mama Bird told her baby. That's right. So Mama Bird told her baby. And then once we use it, we'll cross it out. And then Harmony, what about it says, they are fighting over who crosses first. Well, we need to put quotation marks around that. And then, will the tall man win? What attribution goes there, Harmony? Which one do you think it is?
Bird asked.
The baby bird asked. Yes, good job. That's the attribution. Here we've got another quote. He looks stronger. William, are you ready to participate yet? Okay, there you are. What attribution goes there, do you think? He looks stronger, blank, but the other is quick on his feet. You think it's Mama answered, the little bird cried, or Mama wisely concluded? She just asked a question, so that's a little clue. So the baby just asked a question.
The mama answered. Wait.
Yeah, that's the one. Mama answered. Whoops. And then, oh, blank. The smaller one has fallen in. What do you think, JC?
The little bird cried.
Yep, and O is in quotation marks. The little bird cried. Oops, I forgot quotations are on this part too. So all the typed parts on this page are going to be the actual spoken parts. So those have quotation marks. And then the smaller one has fallen in. And then we have the last one. That one's obvious. It's this last one here. Well, pride goes before the fall. Mama wisely concluded. Wisely concluded. Okay, give me a thumbs up when you have all those written in. Okay. Okay. So then we're going to go to page 165. And how about JC? Would you mind reading the sentence, please?
Robin, I can't believe my eyes, cried the stranger. That shot was a magnificent shot. I will gladly join your band.
Okay, good. So we have some speaking parts in this on this page here. Magnificent just means extraordinary or superb. Excellent. So that's the vocabulary. And then two articles, you can find that. Don't forget about A here. And then harmony, when you're ready. What are the 6 nouns?
Robin,
Good.
eyes, stranger, shot, band.
Whoa. That was quick. Good job. That was right. You were ready. William, how about the pronouns?
I.
I and I, that's it. Just 2. Good job. Adjectives, JC?
My,
Good.
magnificent,
Yes.
and then your, but we have to change it.
Yes, good. How do we spell it?
Your.
There you go. Good job. 1, 2, 3. There's one more. It has to do with shot here.
That,
There you go. Yes, that shot. It's telling which shot it is. It's that shot. Good. Adverbs, Harmony. Where are the adverbs?
Verb,
What word?
gladly.
Gladly, good.
Okay, where's the other one? One
Two
more.
adverbs. This one's a little tricky.
Believe.
No, It's actually hidden right here in this word can't. Because can is a verb,
What?
but the word not is actually an adverb telling how believe, so not believe basically. So right here, we're gonna have to squeeze it in kind of tiny right there. It goes right over the int for can't. Was a tricky one. And then I'm gonna jump down here to subject verb. So William, what about the verbs?
Join. Believe.
Believe,
Cry.
good. Cried,
Join.
okay.
Was and join.
Was and join, yes. There's a couple more.
Can
The can here, yep, that's a verb.
and will.
And will, good. I think that's all of them, yep. And how about the subjects, Harmony? Who's doing all these things?
I,
I, good,
stranger.
good.
I,
Mhm.
I over here, yep.
You skipped one though.
rob,
Mhm.
shot.
There you go, good. So you see, was a magnificent shot. And if you ask yourself, what was a magnificent shot? The shot was a magnificent shot. Another confusing part there. Okay, the four clauses, main clauses, JC, where are those?
Is the first one I can't believe my eyes?
Yes, good. And you did not include Robin because that's a noun of direct address, so that was correct. Good job.
Is the next one that was a magnificent shot?
That is one, but there is one in between here. Right here.
Cried the stranger?
Yes, cried the stranger because we have a subject verb pair here, so that's how we know that's a main clause. And then there's one more.
And then I will gladly join your band.
Nice. Yes, good job. Awesome. All right, indent, got that. Capitals. Go ahead and find those. I know you guys know how to do those. Don't forget about those I's. The letter I. That. And I again. So Robin, I. That. And I. How about the comma, William? Do we take one out or put one in? I guess there's nothing to take out. So where do we put the one?
After Robin.
Good. That's the noun of direct address because he's talking to Robin. He's addressing him. So yes, good job. All right. How about the speaking parts, Harmony? Where do the quotation marks go?
What did they say?
Robin, I can't believe my eyes.
Good. That's exactly right. What else?
What else? What else did he say?
That shot was a magnificent shot.
Yes, and keep going.
I will gladly join your band.
Nice. All the way to the end. Good. Those are the two speaking parts. And then JC, there's two end marks. Where do the two, what are they and where do they go?
Is the first one an exclamation mark after eyes?
Yes, good job.
And then just a period?
And a period at the end. Yep. Awesome. You guys did great. And then the homophone was your, and we already fixed that. So excellent job. Very, very good. We only have 2 lessons left. After we finish this book, we're done with grammar for the year, and we'll just focus on the history book from now on after that. So go ahead and get out your history book and turn to page 242. I need to blow my nose. I'm going to mute myself. And breathe again a little bit. It's all coming out. All right. 242. We're actually going to go back a little bit in our book. This is an interesting lesson, but remember way back when you guys wrote about transportation milestones? That was like several months ago when you wrote about transportation milestones. Remember we talked about the car, the Erie Canal, we talked about airplanes and railroads, the Transcontinental Railroad. So we're going to revisit that paper this week. And you're going to be adding an introduction and a conclusion. So let's start here on this page, on page 242. And this at the top is just reviewing if you were doing this on your own. So we're going to just start down here where it says review. And we're going to start by talking about different sentence openers. And then actually, you know what? Let's jump back up here to this box. Sorry, I forgot about this box. In lesson 26 and 27, you will write a report about a prominent American of the mid to late 20th century. In preparation for lesson 26, you will find 3 fairly short, simple sources, either from the library or the internet. There are a list of possible subjects on page 253, which we will talk about later, okay? But let's focus on this first. You're going to look at some sentence openers. It says, fill in the pattern for the number 4 ing opener. I know we've talked about it in our grammar books before, but does anybody remember the rule about the ing opener? Do you remember the thing after the comma? Do you remember that little rule that we talked about before with an ing opener? No? So an ing opener starts with an ing word and a phrase. So ing, like as in a verb with an ing, it's called a participle. So like searching or reading or wondering or any kind of a word that has an ing ending, that's an ing opener. So it's either an ing word or a phrase. And then it says plus, and then you're going to write in the word comma, plus a comma, plus a subject. And the rule says the thing after the comma is the thing doing the inging. Remember talking about that a long time ago? I think we did, didn't we? Or is this new? Sometimes I get my classes mixed up, but that is the rule. So above that, up here in this blank, so you're going to write in comma plus subject. I want you to write the rule, the thing after the comma is the thing doing the inging. I know it's weird. It's you know how this book has this IEW has these little sayings like, you know, the topic clincher rule, and we have fanboys, and we have www.asia. These are just little tricks to help you remember certain parts of grammar and writing. And this is one of those, okay? So this is a little saying that you can remember that goes along with the ing opener. So the thing after the comma is the thing doing the inging, and that's the rule. And let's look at a couple examples down here. It says label each sentence. Only 2 sentences will be labeled as a number 4 ing opener. Even though if you look ahead, all of these sentences begin with ing, but not all of them follow this rule right here. So look at the first one. Searching all across the country, railroads, or sorry, I said searching. Let me back up. Stretching, how about that? Stretching all across the country, railroads became the chief form of transportation in the late 1800s. So the ing word is stretching. Here's the comma, and the rule says the thing after the comma is the thing doing the inging. So we have to check that. Is it the railroads that are stretching across the country? And the answer is yes, it's the railroads that are stretching across the country. So that follows that rule, the thing after the comma, it has to be the thing doing the inging at the very beginning of the sentence. So this is a number 4 opener. So we'll just put a 4 here. That is a 4 opener. Look at the next example. During the early 1900s, the Wright brothers began the age of flight. Well, first of all, I don't even see a comma here. And I see the word during. I also recognize during. It is ing, but I know it is a preposition. During is one of the prepositional words for an opener. And there's no comma here. So it's not even going to follow that rule. During the early 1900s, the Wright brothers began the age of flight. So this is a number 2 opener. This is a prepositional opener. And remember, our clue up here is only 2 sentences will be labeled as a 4 ing opener. So let's look at the next one. Hoping to make the automobile available to the middle-class Americans, Ford significantly lowered the cost of production. So we have hoping is our participle, hoping. Now let's check after the comma here, we have Ford. Is it Ford that was doing the hoping to make automobile available to middle-class Americans? Yes, it was Ford. It was Henry Ford that was hoping to make the automobile available to the middle-class Americans. So that is a number 4 opener because it follows the rule. The thing after the comma is the thing doing the inging. Okay, and then the last one, constructing the Transcontinental Railroad was a major feat. This one does not have a comma, and there's nothing after, there's no comma to even check if the thing is doing the inging. So we know it's not a number 4 here. And it's not a number 2 because constructing is not a preposition. Constructing the Transcontinental Railroad, it's actually the subject, even though it looks like it could be a verb here. This is another participle, but it's not acting as the thing doing the inging after the comma. So it actually is a number 1 subject opener. It is a thing. Constructing the Transcontinental Railroad was, here's our verb, was a major feat. So this would be an adjective and a noun at the end. So this is actually the subject of the sentence. So that's just showing you that even though you might see ing at the beginning, doesn't mean it's always going to be an ing opener. It might be something else like preposition or even subject. Any questions about these openers right here or the ing opener? No questions? Okay. Okay, thank you. Let's go on to the next page here. And this is saying new structure here. But actually you did introduction and conclusion. You've done this before. You did it with your preamble paper where you included an introduction and a conclusion. So this is a basic essay model, has an introduction and a conclusion. So it basically says Unit 8 formal essay models teaches various types of essays. Essays begin with an introduction and end with a conclusion. The essays you will write in this book follow the basic essay model, which looks like this. So Roman numeral 1 is your introduction. This is where you have your attention getter, background, and when you state your topics, that's the first paragraph, the introduction. And then we have the body paragraphs, which is usually it's 3, but it can be more than that. So it doesn't specify how many body paragraphs, but those body paragraphs are when you have your topic clinchers, and that's where you have your main topics. So here you're just stating the topics, and in the body paragraphs, you're telling more about each topic, a whole paragraph of each topic. And then Roman numeral 5 is your conclusion. That's when you restate your topics. You tell what is most significant and why. And then your last sentence has that title rule in it. So you can make a title. So notice that in the introduction, you state your topics, and in the conclusion, you restate the topics. And in the middle, your body paragraphs, each one of those paragraphs tells about a topic. So it sounds like you're repeating yourself, and you are. And that is the format for a formal essay or a basic essay. This is kind of giving a little bit more detail, but I want to go ahead and keep going. So let's turn to page 244. And this is a template for your conclusion. So you already have your body paragraphs written. I know it's been a while, like a long time. It was back when you were writing about the transportation milestones. So it's going to be, those are on, and you might have to use a little Post-it or something to keep track of these pages, but page 169, if you can flip back to that, 169, a while back here. (169) has your fused outline from your first topic. So if you have Post-its near you right now, I recommend just putting one on this page here. And that way you can come back to it pretty easy. I'm going to put it on the end of the page here so I can, so it's, oops, sorry. So it's different than my other Post-its, so I don't get them confused, but put a Post-it here. This is 169. This is your first fused outline for transportation milestones. And then I want you to flip to 179. On page 179, that's your second fused outline. We took our time with this paper. I don't know if you remember back then, but we took our time with it. So we had those source outlines, and then we did the fused. So we have fused for Roman numeral 1, fused for Roman numeral 2, and then 181. The next one over, this is your fused for Roman numeral 3. So I might as well put a Post-it on this page too. Those are your 3 topics. So we're going to be flipping back and forth a lot in your book. I recommend you laying your book open flat. And so you can flip back and forth to those pages pretty easily, and hopefully you have Post-its, or at least you can fold the corner down if you don't have Post-it notes. Okay, so now that you have those pages marked, go back to this page today, 244. And remember, we're working on the conclusion next, which is the last paragraph of your paper. This is your last paragraph of your paper here. So keep that in mind as you're writing these. The first part of your conclusion is going to be restating, because this is the last paragraph. So you're going to restate what you had for topic A. That was back on page 169. Topic B, that was on page 179, and then topic C, that was on page 181. Those are your 3 topics. So it says write a sentence or 2 about each topic. Try to convey the main idea of each body paragraph. Highlight or bold the topic keywords. So we're going to have to go back and refresh our memory on these paragraphs. But if you are able to pull it up on your while you're on Zoom, these were from homework that was due on February 4th. So 2/4/26, if it helps you to look at those paragraphs. JC, I had a chance to look at yours, but I haven't had a chance to look at yours yet, William, on that. But if you want to pull it up, if you want to minimize your Zoom and pull up homework due 2/4/26, goes way back February. That's where those paragraphs are, if that helps you, okay? Otherwise, you can just use your outline that you made on those pages in your book. All right, so here's what we're going to do. This is a little tricky because it's hard to do this part on Zoom, but in the chat, when you look back, go back to your Post-it on 169, type in the chat what your first topic was in your original paper about transportation milestones. Was it about Erie Canal? Was it about automobiles or airplanes? Or what did you pick for your first topic from page 169? Go ahead and type it in the chat. You guys know what I'm looking for. So if you look back on 169 on your fused outline for your Roman numeral 1, can you see if it was? Okay, good. Harmony says Transcontinental Railroad. Good. That was her first topic. Okay, and JC's cars. Good. I'm glad you guys are finding that. So for you, Harmony, you would put right here on topic A, Transcontinental Railroad. This is an I. And then William, okay, Transcontinental Railroad. Okay, good. So you can put your topic, and then if you could think of 2 more words to basically wrap up that. And if you need to look at your paper and figure that part out later, you can, but we're just listing some key words here next to these topics. And as it says here, you might need 1 or 2 sentences when you go to write these paragraphs. You might need 1 or 2 for each topic A, topic B, and topic C. That's okay to do that. Even if you don't have them here in your notes, as you're typing, you might think of more to say. So William, you'll have this also. And then obviously, JC, you would have cars, blank, blank. So you can think of a couple other words. Remember, this is your last paragraph. So you want to think of how could you sum up in a conclusion here. I don't know why the book did it this way, but they did. So we're going to go along with it. But it makes sense to do this part with that lesson, but they spread it out for some reason. So. All right, thumbs up if you have something written for topic A here. Good. Okay. William, you have something written here on page 244. Okay. And then now I want you to look at topic B. Topic B is going to go back with page 179 back here for Roman numeral 2. look at what your next topic is, put it in the chat. And go ahead and write your topic plus 2 more keywords with it. Okay, good. JC's Erie Canal, Williams Airplane, and Harmony's car. Nice. So Harmony, yours would look something like this, where you have car, blank, blank. You can decide those later. Excuse me. And then go ahead and move on to topic C. That's going to be on page 181 that we marked. Go ahead and put that third topic in your chat and then write it here with 2 more keywords. Okay, William had Erie Canal, JC Airplane. So you'll write those keywords here and then 2 more. Good. Okay, for this next part, it's going to require you looking back on your paragraph. So hopefully you were able to find them on Google Classroom. But you can jump up here to tell, it shows what they're looking for most significant and why. So it basically says, and I'm up on this paragraph above, what is the most important, most interesting, or most significant thing to remember about all that you wrote and why? You may choose one of your topics and tell why it is the most significant, or you may choose something that tells the importance of the entire subject, meaning you can choose Transcontinental Railroad, car, and airplane, and say why one of those is most significant, or most interesting, or most important. Or you can tell about transportation milestones in general. That's the main subject. That's the entire subject. So you get to decide, what are you going to decide is most significant, most interesting, or most important? And then it says the background information in the source text on pages 161 and 166 may be helpful. And we'll look at that in a second. As you consider what to write, ask yourself questions. Why is the transportation of people and goods important? How did better transportation impact the lives of Americans and the economy of the country? And what does the development of better transportation systems indicate about America's ability to meet challenges and solve problems? These are great ideas here of what you can use as most significant. So if you like one of these ideas here, one of these questions here, use that in your paper. That's okay to do that. But let's flip over to 161 and 166 here that they're suggesting, and that way that can help. 161, let's go there first. And this is when they actually labeled the paragraph for you, that one paragraph. So we're going to look at this paragraph to help you think of maybe what the most significant thing or most important thing is that you think in this paper should be. So JC, I'm going to ask you to read this paragraph, just this first little paragraph on 161, please.
In the early 19th century, across America's western frontiers was crude and uncomfortable. Roads, especially, were horrendous and dangerous for traveling long distances. But as the country grew, the need for ways to connect the East and West became apparent. The Industrial Revolution brought innovations in transportation that transformed America forever.
Okay, good. So there's some great ideas here. So use this paragraph to help you if you see something there you want to put as your most significant thing about the topic or subject. And then the other page was 166. Wait, is it 166? Hold on. Oh, through 166, I see. So it actually would be this background here on 163. America was a young nation in the 1800s and it was expanding. I'm on 163, by the way. People were settling in the western frontiers, but the frontier was cut off from many of the goods of the East. Factories or stores where people could buy even basic things like food, furniture, and household items did not exist. Furthermore, people were discovering that the West had valuable resources that could be used by factories in the East. The problem was finding ways to easily transport goods and people between the East and the West. So use these ideas here. I think they're also going to recommend using these ideas here for your introduction. But that's what they're talking about, these background paragraphs on each of these sources, source A, B, and C. Here's one more paragraph. Okay, so flip back to this to help you with your outline. Go back to where we were, 244. And I'm going to give you just a couple minutes to put down what you think is most significant, either about one of the topics or about the subject as a whole, and why. Now, you can either write sentences here, I'm okay with that, or you can keep it just keywords. It's up to you on this part right here. So if it helps you to write it out, go ahead and do that. And just jot down some notes for yourself here. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to work on that. For the why, you can start by saying something like, this is important because, and then you've got your because clause. This is how you're going to wrap up your paper. This is the last part of your paper here, conclusion. Okay, go ahead and finish writing the words you're on here. We're going to move on to page 245. All right. So page 245 is talking about the introduction. This is the last paragraph that you actually write, but it actually is the first paragraph of your paper. I know it sounds backwards, but it's easier to come up with the introduction information after you've finished your whole paper, even though it goes first in your paper. So the first part, the very first sentence, so think now about the very beginning of your paper. You need an attention getter. Remember when we talked about that before? So your very first sentence needs to grab the reader and draw them in, like make them want to read more because they're interested and because of the first sentence that you put. Start your introduction with a sentence that encourages your reader to continue reading. Create 3 different attention getters. When you're done, choose the one you like the best. We're not going to actually complete this page right now, but I wanted to show you the examples here. So you can use a question as your attention getter. And here's the example. What would daily life look like without cars? You could plug in what would daily life look like without transportation? That's a good question there. You can think of your own question and put it here. You can think about that later. Another way to start your introduction paragraph is with a very short sentence. Remember the number 6 VSS is very short sentence. These sentences are 2 to 5 words. Let's just put that in there so we can remember how many words are in a VSS. 2 to 5 words. And here's your example. People depend on transportation. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 words. That works. Okay. Another idea is to state a famous quote or fact. If you do not know one, search on the internet, ask your parent first for a quote about transportation, trains, the Transcontinental Railroad, or cars. So you can search up a famous quote. If it's okay with your parents, you can do that and start with a quote. Here's the example. On the famous golden spike that completed the Transcontinental Railroad, David Hughes engraved these words. May God continue the unity of our country as this railroad unites the 2 great oceans of the world. That's a cool quote. So you can think about that, research that, and decide what you want to use as your attention getter. And then the next step on the template that we're going to look at in a minute is writing about the background. And it says, tell your reader what the subject of the composition is about, but do not say anything similar to this composition is about, or this paper is about, or this essay is about. Do not say that, okay? We want to stay away from that. Simply make a general statement about the subject. Then provide background information you think would be interesting or important. The background information should flow into the introduction of the topics. And now this brings up those pages that we just looked at, the background information at the beginning of each one of those sources. You can go use some of the information in there too. You may read this information and choose some facts to include in your background, or you may write your own ideas. So the first part is the attention getter, and then give a little background. This might be 3 sentences-ish, depending on how much you want to include in the background part, leading up to what those topics are. And then, so basically what life was like before. That would be background, right? That's before they had all these transportation. And then your topics. End your introduction by listing the topics you wrote about in your body paragraph. So that's when you talk about Transcontinental Railroad, cars, airplanes. In the same order that they appear in the body of the paper. So whatever order you have that we just talked about, keep it in the same order. You can write a sentence about each topic or simply list the topics in one sentence. Highlight or bold the topic keywords. So this is when the introduction and the conclusion do not follow the topic clincher rule. You're just highlighting those topics. Okay, let's move on to 146 here. And this is where you're going to fill this in. Excuse me, sorry. As far as the attention getter, if you want to use a question, you can write your question. If you want to use a quote, I would just put in parentheses here, quote, if you want to look that up later and find something to start with. Or if you already know a VSS, go ahead and write that in there. And remember, the background, that can come from pages 161 to 166. That's where we can look back on those pages for ideas here of background, like what life was like before. For topic A, B, and C, you're going to have the same things you put in the chat in the same order. So like, let me go back here in the chat. Harmonies and Williams was transcontinental railroad. And by the way, let's put a box around that. Because, and I want you to do that back on the other page where you had your conclusion, because that's going to remind you, that's what you highlight. And then if your next one was cars and airplanes or whatever yours are, okay, make sure you follow your own pattern that you had on the conclusion page. So if you need to look back on 244, see what you have there. Put a box around those on 244 also. And that'll just remind you, you're not going to do topic clincher. You're only going to highlight these topics, okay? Or bold. All right. You're going to need to spend some time setting up your templates here, finishing these, and then you're going to write your introduction and conclusion. So let's look at the checklist. The checklist is on 249. There are some new things on here this week. There's two new openers. I don't know why they did two at the same time, but they did. The subject opener, that's the most common. Now, the subject opener can start with the or a or an article, and even an adjective if you need to. But just remember, the subject opener has the subject near the first word of the sentence, the subject of the sentence. Like cars were an important improvement to our transportation system or something like that. So cars would be the subject, or transcontinental railroad. This one here, the ing opener, that one's new to you. And remember the rule. And let's write the rule here just so you can see it when you get to this part. So go ahead and just draw a little arrow next to ing here. And let's write the rule. The thing after the comma is the thing doing the inging. The thing after the comma is the thing doing the inging. Like that one example, stretching from the east to the west in America, comma, the Transcontinental Railroad, blah, 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 blah. Or transforming America, comma, the airplane, blah, 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 blah. So the airplane is the one doing the transforming, okay? So you got to make sure those two connect, whatever's after the comma and the ing word at the beginning of the sentence, okay? And the vocabulary, we didn't get a chance to go to yet, but this is from lesson 25. And you will add 2 vocabulary words here. Just put add 2 vocab words somewhere in your introduction and your conclusion from lesson 25. And those words will be at the back of your book. We ran out of time. You guys have any questions about homework though? So what you're going to do is go back to, and I'm going to make a note here at the very bottom, homework. If you need to go, William, it's okay. Do 2-4. You're going to cut and paste those 3 paragraphs from homework due 224 that you wrote before and put it with the introduction and conclusion. So you're actually going to turn in 5 paragraphs total. Okay. Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. Okay, good. All right, you guys, you're free to go. Have a great week. See you next week. Bye.